Fortnite brought about some significant changes in how players choose their drop locations. The map changed a bunch, adding air vents and cannons all over the place. But also vending machines now give free loot, and ballers have taken over planes as the go-to vehicle for most of the game. Every week, there are changes being made to the map, such as more vehicle spawns being added, new air vent locations, and even updates to already existing POIs, mainly the block. In fact, there are so many changes that we can't even fit them into one discussion video. If we missed a change that stands out to you, definitely let us know below. So guys, let us take a look at what makes the drop location good in Season 8. We'll also analyze where pro players have been landing in the World Cup qualifier so far. So before we get started, this is Keith, Alan, Henson. You guys ready? Let's go. These are the best drop locations for Season 8 of Fortnite. In most public games and lower division arena matches, players tend to immediately drop out of the battle bus. Or they'll choose high pop zones so they can get into the action immediately. Obviously, if you're trying to win the game, fighting a bunch of players off spawn probably isn't the way to go. If you're trying to play more defensively and go for placement points, it's a good choice to wait for the end of the bus path to land in a more secluded spot. But if you're looking to play a bit more aggressively, then your best bet is to choose a POI near the beginning of the bus path with lots of loot. Just remember, if it's a common knowledge that a drop spot is good, more players will tend to land there. But in most of your games, even in Arena, you should still be able to find a good spot with little to no players contesting. While most of you probably already know this, ballers are being utilized at all levels of gameplay, especially Arena. If you manage to bring a baller with you to the end game, it provides quick, easy rotations at next to no cost. Since their introduction, many players have been asking for either a nerf or vault for ballers in Arena. Since they're far too useful, the gameplay is non-interactive and based on hiding. Epic has been trying to decide what to do with the ballers, and it's unsure whether we will see a big nerf or vault anytime soon. It seems that Epic wants the ballers to be used in competitive, so until it reaches a point where there is a downside to playing with the baller, it's a good idea to land at locations that have them. Even landing on the baller right at the start to secure is not a bad idea, as ballers tend to be grabbed up right at the beginning. We'll be looking at which areas have the most baller spawns, and using that information to help discover the best drop spots in the game right now. Vending machines definitely got a buff this season as well. Being able to get one item of blue or higher rarity for free at the start of the game is a very strong mechanic. If you watch our best loadouts video, you'll see that we mentioned vending machines as being one of the best ways to complete your in-game loadout, so landing near them at the start of the game is a choice many players are making now. You can find a lot of success in your early game if you manage to get the right weapon out of the vending machine, such as an RPG, SCAR, or pump shotgun. You'll see that the number of vending machines in an area varies, with most POIs having around 2. Others can go up to 4. Either way, when looking for landing spots, we'll be considering locations that have at least 2 nearby vending machines. Baller spawns and vending machines are obviously not the only things to consider in a location. There are other factors, such as the amount of loot and material availability. Then there's ease of rotating out from the zone, and mushrooms and coconuts for shields. We want to also consider natural rift spawns. While everything will be taken into consideration, we want to give a special focus to Season 8 specific factors. Paradise almost has it all this season. It can spawn up to 4 vending machines, more than any other POI. There is plenty of each type of material to farm, and you can use coconuts to fill up your shield, thereby saving the ones you find. Also, it has one of the few remaining natural rift spawns, so you can rotate out quickly once you're done looting. Even if rifts don't spawn or get taken by enemies, there's a quad crasher in town. There's also nearby air vents to the northwest for when you need to move to the next zone. To top it off, there are 24 chest spawns as well, making this a solid drop for any number of players to acquire good items. We recommend taking a look at the vending machine loot as you glide in, just in case you see an item you like. Try landing either at the cactus chest in the middle or by the hotel pool if you like a vending machine along with your chest. Loot Lake has managed to become even better as the season progressed, and it has recently received another overhaul in patch 8.4. Now material has been added in more places, as well as about 10 more chest spawns, putting that total to around 35. There are 3 vending machines inside the zone. Don't forget, there's also 2 usually unused machines just outside, so make sure to check them out on your way out to snag an extra item. One other thing that's unique about Loot Lake compared to other good spots is its central location on the map, which gives you a bit more time to loot and farm if you get circle favored early on. The best spot to land at is likely the factories on the west side, since there's good material, 2 vending machines, and a few chests to loot. 34 total chest spawns, 3 vending machines, and nearby baller spawn make Happy Hamlet another fantastic drop location in Season 8. With the sheer amount of loot available, it's pretty easy to end up with a nearly complete kit if you land here. Metal will be the hardest to farm here, and you'll likely need to find somewhere outside the town if you're looking to get to max material. It's a good idea to land and secure ballers at either the nearby racetrack or at the expedition camp before you start looting the town. But if you don't see players going for them at the start, you probably have some time to get items first. Another great location this season is Frosty Flights, due to it having the largest concentration of ballers in any area. Definitely the main reason to land here, there are 10 potential ballers inside the area, as well as an 11 just outside of it. Material takes a while to farm up here, since it's mostly metal buildings and a few rocks for brick, until you start to rotate out. But there's 3 vending machines nearby that can be used, as well as around 25 chests, so getting a solid kit should be easy. Landing at the hangars is likely the way to go if there are other players with you, just so you can more easily secure a baller. If you want to play a bit more aggressively, landing on the high ground can help you spot enemies below. The last drop location is more suited only for duels and solos, since there isn't too much loot available. But this area happens to be one of the best baller spots in the game, thereby making it a great drop by default. Specifically, it is the area with metal buildings north of the volcano. It should be relatively easy to get to max material since there's plenty of high resource giving structures here. And if you can't manage to get a baller, you can always use the volcano vents to rotate when you're done looting. Thanks to Epic Games, the replay files from the first 2 weeks of World Cup qualifiers are available. So we're going to be taking a look at where the finalists dropped at, and hopefully we can come to a few conclusions after our analysis. Another thanks to Reddit user ArcaneFN for completing the painstaking task of downloading and playing dozens of World Cup replays. And green highlight, we've got games where the finalists dropped at one of the 5 previously discussed locations. In red, we have games where the players landed at a baller location. As you can see, many of the locations we just discussed are being utilized successfully by pro players, even at the highest level of competition. While each player and duo likely has their own unique reasons for choosing their landing spots each game, there is no denying the playing advantages many of these locations contain. One spot that seems to be used by a lot of players that we didn't discuss is Tilted Towers. Players will drop Tilted on occasion when they feel they need some kills in their next game, which is why we see it pop up once or twice for many players. Players are less likely to hot drop Tilted in this World Cup games as well, which is why we might see this location work so well. In general, it's a very good spot this season, and there's plenty of material to farm. This includes a staggering 39 chest spawns and 3 vending machines for loot, a central map location, and a few vehicles on surrounding mountains if you end up needing one. Another spot we see a lot is Snobby Shores. Honestly, you need to ask the players that landed there why they did so, because there aren't many redeeming qualities that we can find in this area. The best we can figure is that Snobby is an incredibly safe side of the map, and you probably won't run into many players while looting or rotating. That is the one likely reason why players are finding success there. When it feels like you're stuck in an arena and can't climb, the best landing strategy is likely to wait for the end of the bus path and then choose a baller spawn location, preferably one with a lot of loot. Vending machines can provide a high tier weapons that help you win the game, so if you don't mind a little competition, try landing in spots that have multiples. Epic Games isn't afraid to add or remove what makes spots great with each update, so it's good to keep in mind what makes a drop location good. This way, you can quickly adapt to future map changes. Hey, once again, this is Keith Allen Henson.
Here are 8 tips for finding the best keybinds in Fortnite, presented by Fortnite Master. Good key bindings are the foundation for good gameplay, but finding the optimal key bindings can be time consuming. In this video, we'll give some guidelines you should follow when setting your key bindings, examples of top players' key binds, and include a few ways to practice your new binds and playgrounds. Without wasting any time, let's get started. Keybinds refer to specific keys you use to perform actions in-game, like shooting and building. Movement keybinds, for example, are always bound to WASD, while shooting and aiming down sight are bound to left and right click. These are your core keybinds and shouldn't need changing. Other keybinds like your weapon slots, building, and edit buttons are all keybinds that you should think about changing. The default bindings for these can work, but aren't necessarily optimal. Changing them could make certain things easier to execute in-game. Trying to find the best key bindings may feel overwhelming at first because every player seems to have different preferences. There are, however, patterns that almost every pro player and streamer follows when it comes to binds. Ultimately, you should test different setups and stick with key bindings that are comfortable for you and work well with your gameplay. Before we talk about specific keybinds for weapon slots, building, and editing, we need to distinguish the most valuable keys on your keyboard. The most important keys are those that are closest to your movement buttons because they're the easiest to reach. This includes keys like Q, E, F, Z, X, C, V, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. You should try to bind these keys to actions you use most often, like main weapon slots, building, and editing. It's also important to recognize the value of left shift, caps lock, and tab. These are 3 more important keys that can be quick and easy to hit once you get used to it. Many of your favorite players and streamers also use mouse buttons for extra accessibility binds. The most common mouse buttons are mouse button 4 and mouse button 5, which are usually 2 buttons on the side of the mouse. Some mice have more than that, but we're going to stick with just 2 mouse binds in this guide. Unfortunately, not all mice have extra buttons, and this might not be accessible to everyone. However, if you do have a mouse with extra buttons, mouse button 4 and 5 are pretty easy to hit with your thumb, and should be considered additional important keys. They work quite well for any of the 4 building keybinds or weapon slots. First, you want to unbind Q. This key is much more useful for other stuff, and you never need to use that button because you can just swap to a specific build/weapon to achieve the same effect. Your pickaxe is bound to F by default. We recommend rebinding this because F is one of the easiest keys to reach, making it great for something like edit. A decent workaround is to move your weapon slots to 2 to 6 and bind your pickaxe to 1. If this doesn't feel comfortable, try checking out the pickaxe bind that some of your favorite players use. The use button is bound to E by default. Changing this bind is more of a matter of preference. If you feel that E can be more useful for a build or weapon, you can try rebinding it to an extra mouse key or another key relatively close to WASD. Myth and Cypher PK, for example, have U's bound to V, so they can have E bound to an important build or weapon. You should turn on sprint by default too. It's good in general and frees up a valuable key in left shift. Crouch is a good bind for this key, which will free up left control for something like auto run. Now that we know a little more about the important keys and default binds, let's talk about your building keybind specifically. The default binds are Z, X, C, V, which aren't horrible, but we would recommend playing around with them to find the most comfortable combination for you. For building keybinds like your wall, floor, ramp, and pyramid, keep them on your most important keys like Q, E, Z, F, C, V, mouse button 4, or mouse button 5. Finding the right combination of these binds is a matter of trial and error and may take some time testing in Playground. Your edit button should be bound to a key that's extremely accessible and can be hit accurately multiple times in a quick session. That's why many pros and streamers choose F for their edit, because it sits right next to the key that your pointer finger naturally sits on. Any of the other valuable keys mentioned previously will work too, as long as you're comfortable making quick edits with your chosen key. If you're using a mouse with more than 2 buttons, stay away from having more than 2 building binds on your mouse. While mouse buttons are convenient, many more advanced builds require you to quickly click a sequence of keys. With more than 2 builds on your mouse, some of these become unnecessarily difficult. Default binds for weapons are F for pickaxe and 1 to 5 for weapon slots. These aren't horrible, but you might want to change some of them if you're having trouble hitting any of the number keys or you want to use F for another important bind like edit. In our experience, 1 to 4 are the easiest to hit of all the number keys. So if you want your pickaxe and weapons bound to numbers, use 1 to 4 for your pickaxe, AR, shotgun, and SMG slots. You want your main weapons to be on number keys that are the easiest to reach because these are the weapons that you'll be using mid-combat in intense scenarios that require fast decision making and action. Furthermore, you want to make sure these keys are easy for you to hit quickly and accurately. It's very important to be able to swap between your shotgun and SMG seamlessly, so make sure you have them binded close to each other. This reduces the amount of mental effort required in those high pressure fights. Binding your weapons to keys other than number keys is an option too, although this will require you to play around with your keybinds a bit more. If you're going to do this, keep your AR, shoddy, and SMG bound to your most important keys. Your 4th and 5th slot, which are usually reserved for weapons like snipers, explosives, or healing items, can be bound to keys that are a little further from WASD. After you figure out building, editing, and weapon slot keybinds that are comfortable, it's easier to choose the rest of your binds with the remaining available keys. Keys like T, G, B, 5, and 6 are great for things like trap slot, rotating building, repairing building, etc. One of the most daunting things about setting keybinds is knowing where to start. A good starting point would be to look at what some pro players do, since their keybinds are tested on the daily and have been refined over a long period of time. We think Ghost Bizzle's keybinds are a great example, as they're more similar to the defaults than other players. All 4 of his building pieces are bound to keys immediately surrounding movement, Q, C, V, and X. His pickaxe and weapons are bound to the default 1 to 6. It's hard to question their effectiveness, with Bizzle being one of the top pros in terms of prize money earned. If you're interested in other pro players' keybinds, check the description below for links to keybinds used by Ninja, Myth, and Bizzle, as well as their own Fortnite master keybinds. Remember, the pro players' keybinds aren't set in stone. If something about them is a little uncomfortable, feel free to swap it up to make it comfortable for yourself. The first thing when testing new keybinds is to make sure you can do everything you want while keeping your movement smooth. You shouldn't need to stop moving to build or take out close range weapons. Also, remember that if you have to change your keybinds, getting used to new keybinds always sucks. Practicing in Playground is only useful to figure out patterns and getting muscle memory down. Getting accustomed to your new keybinds will take playing and dying embarrassingly in real games. Thank you guys for watching this video. Check out some of the others on the right side of the screen. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notifications for whenever a new guide shows up. Thank you again so much.